So I decided to do an author study over Lori Halse Anderson. So who exactly is Lori Halse Anderson? For those of us who may not know, she is a prolific young adult author. And I say that because when I was growing up, I remember reading Speak, and I read this book in middle school, and we all know how middle school can be for everyone. It's a lot of drama and a lot of emotions, but I remember reading it and it changed my life. It definitely taught me that there's more to people than what meets the eye, and I never know what someone else could be going through. So it allowed, by me reading this book, it definitely allowed for me to become a more, I don't know, less ignorant person to the fact that everyone could be going through things. And I changed how I behaved and addressed people accordingly. But back to her. She is a New York Times bestselling author. Obviously, she's known for writing for kids of all ages. She has children's books, but I feel like her books that are most reputable are Speak and Chains, because those were the two books that won her the National Book Award. Um, Speak being, of course, about sexual assault, but Chains being another one of her historical fiction novels. I wanted to focus this presentation over her young adult novels, though, as I've read Winter Girls for this class, and I thought that that book in particular was another book along the lines of Speak for me. Like, it changed my life in a way. I guess I was a little bit oblivious to the fact that people still do battle eating disorders and depression, and apparently having teen suicide pacts is a thing, and I guess I didn't learn enough of that when I was in school. So that's why I said that she's definitely the writer of tough subjects. She gives voice to teen characters, as David Mowry said in his quote that Kelsey also presented. But in the context of her works, if I were to go on and teach these texts for Speak, I would be, of course, discussing sexual assault. I'm not exactly certain if I would be comfortable teaching this novel, but it would definitely be in my classroom library, because I think it's important to have it available. So long as whoever decides to check it out with me, we would have a system and we have to talk about it and all of those things. Same for Winter Girls. I would have to know my students well before I allowed any of them to read these texts. And of course, assess what I felt like their maturity level would be, because those are books that require a certain level of understanding that I don't think my sixth graders are exactly prepared for. But if I teach maybe eighth on up, it would be fine. I'm not exactly certain if I would keep Winter Girls in my classroom. I want to. When I was speaking with Gracie about it, she definitely encouraged me to keep it, because she said that she felt like it would have helped her in her life when she was going through difficult times. And I want to be an educator that is available and offers a safe space that my students can come to talk about these things. And if I have to have difficult text in my classroom to allow them to come to me, then I guess that would be a benefit of keeping that book on the shelf. I've also included Fever 1793. This is definitely one of my favorite books growing up as well. It was one of the first historical fiction texts that I've ever read. So in the context of analyzing this author, I thought it would be more important for me to include a book that I loved versus another young adult book. So I did have a couple of lesson plan ideas for Speak. If I were to discuss it, I would discuss three main topics: mental illness, social awareness, and redefining what survival means. Mental illness, the idea would be for my students and I to celebrate Mental Illness Awareness Month. It's something that I've seen on a couple of stations like MTV and stuff like that, as well as on social media. So I would try to figure out a way to bridge a gap between talking about the book and relating it to social media and different ways that we can express our understandings of what types of mental illness there, I guess some of the types of mental illnesses that exist, and definitely trying to get a clearer understanding for my students about what they are and how they affect people. I feel like a lot of people don't understand depression and things of that nature, so talking about those in a little bit of detail might help them understand the book some. For instance, with social awareness, I would discuss the clique culture in the text, maybe examining how isolation in schools and out of schools affects people, how bullying also um, is something that happens when people are being isolated. And I had a couple of ideas about showing snippets from movies like Jawbreaker or Mean Girls, but I don't know if those movies are like school approved, so I definitely have to see and cross reference on that before I would show something like that to put more of a face of the different types of bullying that happens in schools. Um, but in terms of redefining survival, my kids have already we did a very big unit using Hatchet to discuss survival. So I thought it'd be interesting to take a spin on what survival could mean in terms of surviving through difficult times in reference to Maddie's sexual assault in the text, but um, maybe offering them ways that we could, I don't know, build a culture or community in our classroom that we would, I don't know, discuss a little bit about sexual assault. I don't know. The idea right now is in processing. I would have to discuss it. It could easily go either way, and I don't want to cause any more issues for myself with trying to teach a book like this. But the next 3 slides are going to be brief excerpts that I got from her website that briefly like summarize the text for people. I did this for when I would present in front of the class for people who didn't know, and would provide them with a little bit of background. And whoops, excuse me, when I said earlier that I was talking about Maddie is definitely from Fever 1793. The main character in Speak is Melinda. That is my bad. But yeah, and I included a book trailer at the end that I found, and this was after me scouring YouTube for a long time. But she's in high school, and she does this entire trailer by herself, but it's one of my favorites. So I included that as well. I think it was 3 minutes long, so I would have had to talk really fast to get through it all to be able to show it. But I liked it and would show it for my kids. And lastly, I included a reference because I wanted you to know where I got those like large blocks of like summary from. So that is all.